Good afternoon, students. Today let me start with a new topic of this organic evolution chapter, that is evidences of evolution. This process of evolution, it is a gradual process of change from one condition to another condition. And in the introductory part of this evolution chapter, I told you that this process of evolution occurs at very slow rate. So it will not happen all of a sudden overnight, but it requires thousands of years, or even it may require some millions of years to happen or to visualize. And how we can convincingly prove these theories of evolution, because so far we have discussed about Lamarckism, then Darwinism, then Neo-Darwinism, mutation theory, Weismann's theory. So many theories we have discussed so far. And in each of such theories, we come across with some lacunae or some kind of demerits. And there is no substantial proof, or there is no such kind of evidence in favor of such theories, or in case of such the concepts. And it is quite difficult to evidence this process of evolution. But still, there are a number of such evidences are there in order to prove the process of evolution, and we call such things as evidences of evolution. And in case of these evidences, in support of organic evolution, that theory of organic evolution seems to be the most acceptable explanation of the occurrence of varied forms of plants and animals on this earth. And evolution, which started out as a hypothesis, is now supported by evidence from many fields of science. And the various convincing evidences for the occurrence of descent with modification is being summarized as follows. They are taxonomy, biogeography, and then comparative embryology, and then paleontology, and then comparative morphology and anatomy, and comparative biochemistry and physiology. So likewise, there are many other such kind of evidences are there which will support this process of evolution, or the theory of organic evolution. Now let us go through them one by one, and the first being evidences from morphology and comparative anatomy. Morphology is the study of external form and structure of various organs, while the study of internal structures is called anatomy. And the various organ systems of vertebrates indicate that they are constructed on a basic plan. For example, the blood vascular system is made up of heart, arteries, and the veins, while the excretory system is made of kidneys in all vertebrates. And a gradual development and modification in the various organ systems is seen as an organism becomes more and more complex. For example, the heart is 2-chambered in fishes, 3-chambered in amphibians, 4-chambered in crocodiles, birds, and mammals. So here itself you can see the evolution process wherein the heart is evolved from a 2-chambered condition to 3-chambered condition, and then into 4-chambered condition. And we don't know, in future it may evolve into a condition wherein a heart is having 5 chambers or many number of chambers, so that we can't predict right now. And a similar elaboration is also seen in the structure of the brain in the various groups of vertebrates. And the vertebrate brain is made of the olfactory lobes, cerebral hemisphere, optic lobe, cerebellum, and the medulla oblongata. So in general, as you see that the brain is divided into forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain, and these are the subdivisions present in all these different parts of the brain. And some of the morphological evidences in support of organic evolution are enlisted below. Number 1, among animals, studies on organ systems make it convenient or evident that structures in question show a common fundamental structural plan, and only minor changes in the structure have brought alterations in the morphology of organs. And vertebrae in all higher vertebrates, for example, show the same fundamental structures or structural plan, and the vertebrae originate from similar embryonic rudiment, and in less evolved vertebrae are simple, but in highly evolved members these are modified to a very high degree, but the basic structural plan remains unaltered. And the second example is with reference to the evidence. The appendages of crustaceans, as you have seen, they are built fundamentally on the same biramous pattern, and so they are considered to be serially homologous. So probably you have learned that these appendages in case of prawns, they show a phenomenon what is known as serial homology. And the next important thing is about homology and homologous organs. Probably heard of this word already. Richard Owen introduced the term homologous to those organs that have a common origin and built on the same fundamental pattern or plan, but perform different functions and are morphologically different from each other. Examples: number 1, limb structure of vertebrates. The forelimb of a frog, wings of birds, wings of bat, and seal and flippers of whale, and the arm of man are all constructed on the same general plan but perform different functions. So this is one of the best evidence, that is morphological evidence in favor of organic evolution. So as you know that the bones of all these animals, or these vertebrate animals especially, they show the same fundamental plan of the structure, but they differ in their functions. And the bones of the forelimb are made of the humerus in the upper arm, radius and ulna in the forearm, carpels in the wrist, metacarpals in the palm, and the phalanges in the digits. These bones become different from each other and include shortening or lengthening, and decrease in the number of bones or fusion of bones according to function. So here is the picture, the slide, where you can see the different modifications in the basic structural plan of all these forelimbs of different vertebrates. So this is for your reference, wherein you can see, as you see here, they all having humerus, the basic bone, and they have radius and ulna. So this is there even in the wing of bird, and even in the patagium of these bats, and even in that of whale, that is the flipper of whale, as you see here, humerus, radius, carpels, metacarpals, and then ulna. And in also this horse forelimb, you will come across with the same structure, same bones, and they all have the same structural plan too, even in case of man. If you observe it closely, you will find that relationship between the different bones of these different types of vertebrate animals, and they show a clear-cut homology. Next, the mouth parts of insects are made of the same parts. As you know, they are labrum or upper lip, labium or lower lip, mandibles, maxillae, and hypopharynx. But in different insects, they are modified differently. The biting and chewing mouth parts in case of cockroach, the piercing and sucking type in mosquito, and the sponging type in housefly. You see, these different insects, they all have the same type of mouth parts, but with modifications to suit the type of feeding that they have. Homology does not prove that evolution has occurred. However, the existence of homology within a group of organisms is interpreted as evidence of descent from a common ancestor, and it indicates a close phylogenetic relationship. Probably in first year I have explained you about the phylogeny, wherein the ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny. That is what I already explained to you. Let me not go into the detail of that thing here. And Linnaeus used homology as the basis of classification, and homologous organs illustrate a principle known as adaptive radiation, where a group of organisms which share a homologous structure become specialized to perform a variety of different functions. And it is also known as divergent evolution. So it is a good example for a type of evolution called divergent evolution. Students, you must have heard about the two types of evolution. One is divergent evolution and the other one is convergent evolution. So divergent, as the very name itself suggests, wherein there will be the diversification of the same structural plan. That is what you must have observed in case of these four-limb bones of different vertebrate animals. So each of them is radiating towards one line of evolution, hence the phenomenon is called divergent evolution. Next, analogy and analogous structures. The analogous organs are those that are similar in appearance and perform the same function but are developed on a totally different plan. And they are the examples of convergent evolution. So homology leads to divergent evolution, whereas analogy leads to convergent evolution. Examples: number one, the wing of a bird and the wing of an insect are used for flying, but their basic structure is different. The wing of an insect is formed of a thin flap of chitin and stiffened by veins, but in birds, the flight surface is formed by feathers that are attached to the bones of the forelimb. So this is one of the good example for analogous organs. And the same thing you can observe in this diagram, wherein in case of bird, as we have seen in the earlier slide with reference to the homology, you will come across with these bones like humerus, ulna, radius, carpels or the digits. Okay, whereas in the bat, patagium, they do have the same kind of bones but with modification, whereas the wing of an insect doesn't have any bones. That is what you can clearly make out here. So in this way you can see the analogy here. That means though the wing of these birds, patagium of bat, and even this wing of an insect perform the same function, that is flight, but they do have differences in terms of their structures or the fundamental plan. So in this way they form a good example for analogous organs. Okay, and it is also leading to a type of evolution called convergent evolution. That's what I told you in the previous slide. Because though they have different type of structures, but they perform the same function, that is flight. So as the very name itself suggests, convergence, as you know that convergence means which are focusing towards one particular thing or one particular concept. So they are focusing here for performing flight, though they have different structures. Similarly, the fins of fishes, flippers of whales and penguin have similar appearance and function, but their structural details are totally different. Third one, the sting of honeybee and scorpion. The sting of both these organisms are different structurally, but functionally they serve the same purpose. So in this way they perform or they provide a very good clear evidence for evolution, especially as analogous structures. Then vestigial organs. Vestigial structures are the remains of a structure that was functional in some ancestor but is no longer functional in the organism. And they are degenerate and non-functional. They are found in plants as well as in animals, including humans. So that is what the definition for vestigial organs. Probably heard of these vestigial organs already. Then let us go through some vestigial organs in man. The human body possesses nearly about 100 such vestigial organs, and therefore man is popularly known as walking museum of vestigial organs. Okay, and some prominent examples are as follows, out of which the first one is vermiform appendix. And this vermiform appendix in man is the remnant of the cecum, that is a large functional structure present at the junction of the small and large intestine, and it helps in the digestion of cellulose. And this structure indicates that perhaps the ancestors of man ate only vegetable matter, where the cecum played an important role in the digestion of cellulose. But as evolution progressed, this organ underwent reduction in size and became vestigial. So we all have this vestigial structure in our body between ileum and cecum, that is at the ileocecal junction, just like a worm, hence called vermiform appendix. And it doesn't have any function in our body, but it is in a rudimentary condition. So such organs are called vestigial organs. So here is the picture of the slide showing you the different vestigial organs that we have. And let us start here. This is what the plica semilunaris, the third eye membrane present between the upper eyelid and the lower eyelid, which is called nictitating membrane in other animals, the lower vertebrates, where it could prevent the entry of dust particles or the foreign substances into the eyes. And that was functional in our ancestors or even in other lower vertebrate groups, but it is rudimentary and non-functional. Though we have this plica semilunaris, the nictitating membrane, but it is non-functional. And this is what another good example for vestigial organ. We all have this third molar tooth, that too after the age of 18 or 19 years we develop, and this tooth is called wisdom tooth. Why it's called wisdom tooth? Because the person at the age of around 19, that is after teenage, will develop a kind of what you call wisdom. Okay, of course there are some exceptions to that. So this third molar tooth, it is not having any function, though it will develop in the later part of our lifetime. And this is one of the good examples for vestigial organ. Then the presence of hair on the chest region and presence of mammae in the males, though it is non-functional, but still it is present as a rudimentary structure. So these two are the other examples for this vestigial organs. And our ancestors had a well-developed tail, but we do not have tail, but still we all have a small rudimentary piece of tailbone, what is known as coccyx. So that is what present at the hind end of our vertebral column. And though we have this, but it is not having any function, but it was functional in our ancestor. And this is what I already explained to you about vermiform appendix. At the inner angle of each eye, this is what I already explained you in the previous slide. That is, in the inner angle of each eye, there is a completely unstretchable membrane called nictitating membrane or plica semilunaris. So in lower animals, it can be stretched across the eye when the animal is under water. And early embryonic stages in a man possesses a short tail that reduces in size very early during development. That is what coccyx I have already told you. And apart from this, our ear has, especially the pinna, has some specialized muscles in our external ear pinna, what is called as this external muscles, or what we call is as extrinsic muscles. So these are still present, but they do not have function. You know, our ancestors used to dwell in forests where they were supposed to move their earlobes to hear the sound waves from distant places. But as it is not very useful nowadays, so we cannot move the earlobes on our own, though some of us have developed that ability to move earlobes if they mind, but in general it can't be moved in a modern man. And this is supported by that muscle called extrinsic muscle, which is not well developed in the present day man, but it is said to be a vestigial organ. Then vestigial organs in some other organisms, like first example is in snakes. You know, vestiges of the bone of the hind limb and pelvic girdle are embedded in the flesh of the abdomen region of snakes. So that is also a good example for this vestigial organ. So that is what you can make out here. So these are the vertebral column bone and the pelvic girdle, which is said to be in a rudimentary function, and the remaining limb bone, the rudimentary limb bone present in the body of the snake. So this is another good example for vestigial organ. Then in animals living permanently in deep caves, you know, the eyes are rudimentary or underdeveloped and they do not have a well developed vision, but still it is present. And in flightless birds, small non-functional wings are present, for example ostrich, emu and cassowary. And in plants like ruscus and asparagus, the leaves are reduced to spines. So that is also a good example for vestigial organs from plant source. And here is some other pictures showing about vestigial organs. You know, the tail is developed in some newborn babies, but that could be the example for atavism, which I will explain it to you later. Okay, and these things I have already explained to you. So with this, I have completed one of such evidences for organic evolution, that is morphological and anatomical evidences in support of organic evolution. So with this, let me stop at this level. Thank you.